Christianity, Chapter 6, Section 3. So just a quick background. The time is around 0 AD, and the area known as Judea, modern-day Israel, is controlled by the Romans. And there's a strong dislike the Hebrews have towards the Romans because their religion is pagan, they're polytheistic, and they're also treating the Jewish people not very well. And in this time, one man emerges to become a religious leader. Born in Bethlehem, also known as Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ is born into a Jewish family, but he begins to teach a new type of Judaism, where he preaches that he could die for everyone's sins, and with his death, everyone's sins could be wiped away. Eventually, he starts to gain a following, and these people who follow Jesus are known as his disciples, and he had 12 main disciples. 4 of them would go on to write Bibles, which talk about the various stories of Jesus Christ. And many of these names, especially more in the 1950s and 60s, not as much today, are common names you see in the United States. So you can see there, that's a list of most common names from the 1960s. Notice there's names like James, there's a Mark in there, there's also Thomas in there, and whatnot. So Jesus is betrayed by one of his disciples, Judas, and this is portrayed excellently in this famous painting known as the Last Supper, where supposedly Jesus stated, "Truly I say to you, one of you will betray me, one who is eating with me." And in this picture, it's been brilliantly analyzed in various ways. You'll notice that first of all, Judas's head is a little bit lower than all the other disciples. You'll also notice, if you look carefully, in his right hand, he's holding a bag which has the silver shekels he was given in order to, as a deal for turning Jesus in. You'll also notice the key number 3 is represented by the disciples, all being in groups of 3. You also see 3 windows in the back. And other ways this picture has been analyzed is that you'll notice how Jesus is in the center. You'll also notice how Jesus' body shape, so just going back to that picture for a second, shows the Trinity. Right, there's 3 points, his right hand, his left hand, and his head. Again, so this is the Last Supper. So once he's turned in, Jesus goes through what is known as the crucifixion, and there's a few disagreements about the crucifixion. For example, whether or not Jesus knew he was going to be crucified or his final words. But perhaps the most important is the third one, that, for example, in Islam, they did believe that Romans did crucify a man known as Jesus of Nazareth. However, Muslims believe that this was actually an accident and that Romans had accidentally crucified the wrong person, and that in reality, Jesus of Nazareth has got away. Crucifixion was incredibly painful. It went on for hours. His arms and his legs are nailed directly onto the cross. And it's said that here Jesus spoke to other people who are also being crucified, telling them that he was okay with this and that he was dying for everyone's sins. Three days later, Jesus is resurrected from the dead. So this goes on to be a very important part of the story because it shows that Jesus is not just a regular human being, or that he's beyond human. Jesus' disciples would go on to spread the story of Jesus' great sacrifice for humankind and his resurrection 3 days later. Keep in mind that these first few hundred years, Christians met massive persecution, especially by the Romans who believed in paganism. And this persecution came in sometimes very violent forms. For example, the Roman Emperor Nero would have shows during gladiator fights where he would just release Christians into the middle of the arena, only to have them devoured by lions. It wasn't until Constantine I came by and made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire that Christians were stopped being persecuted. Since then, Christianity has changed its form in many ways. The first big split was made in 1054, when there was the East-West, otherwise known as the Great Schism, where Christianity splits into Eastern Orthodox and to the West, Roman Catholic. And in the 1500s, there's another great split where Christianity splits through the Reformation and becomes Roman Catholic and Protestant. And Protestants vary. You have the Anglicans, you have the Anabaptists, you have dozens of different branches of Protestant Christianity. And today, that number is beyond 30,000 sects. So there's many, many different type of Christian today. Now, the two Christian holidays I want to look at are Christmas and Lent. So we'll start off with Christmas. So Christmas is a date that celebrates the birth of Jesus. It's traditionally celebrated December 25th. And what's interesting about Christmas is that because of its economic impact, it's become a celebration that goes beyond Christian states, which is very unusual. I cannot think of any type of religious holiday, whether it be Judaism, Islam, etc., where a country that isn't that religion celebrates it. And a good example would be Japan or China, neither country known for its Christianity. Both places celebrate Christmas for the economic purposes. Now, Lent is where Christians are expected to sacrifice something that is important to them. It could be food, it could be, maybe you're really into gambling and you think gambling distracts you from focusing on God, so you give up you give up something for 40 days and you commemorate Jesus' sacrifice, and 40 days you wandered across the desert. So the interesting thing is 40 is a key number here, and some people fast and also do not eat meat during this period. Christianity today has 2.4 billion followers, about 1 out of 3 people in the world. The main 3 branches are Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox. And the main city, for example, for Catholics is Vatican. Interesting fact about Vatican is that it is also the world's smallest state. Another interesting set of demographics about Christianity, as you can see, it's spread all across the world. Perhaps its biggest representation is in the Americas with almost 1 billion followers. Some major countries that follow Christianity include Russia, Italy, Germany, USA, Brazil, Mexico, Nigeria, Congo, Ethiopia, Philippines, China, and India. As you can see, it's a little bit less in Asia Pacific, where religions like Buddhism or Chinese traditional religion, Shintoism is more popular. Here's a copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Have an excellent day. Goodbye.